had some really interesting calls with a few of our real estate broker clients, Remax, and it's been fascinating because on Monday they were to a person quite distressed.
Hmm.
And you got to give entrepreneurs credit. And you and I both have talked about this before. It's remarkable the optimistic mentality of,
Yeah.
of an entrepreneur. And so by Wednesday, to a person, Mark, the three that I spoke to on Monday said to me, I'm actually pretty optimistic about it. I'm looking at the challenges, but there's these opportunities and
Yeah.
there's an ability for me to position it differently. I thought, you just gotta love the mentality. Now, whether it's real or not, like whether it's actually going to benefit them or not is a whole other question. Because the way I look at the transaction, it's like Remax is buying technology that they
Right.
desperately need to sort of drag them into this century,
Modern age. Yeah.
and Real is buying scale because they don't have the scale
Yeah.
that Remax does. And the challenge, as you and I talked about, is two totally different models. Like
Yeah.
a couple of our Remax brokers said, Norma, I would love to offer the Real model to my agents, but I don't know how I make money doing it.
Right. Well, that's and
Right?
everybody. No, that's the problem right now, and nobody knows. To make it worse, okay. So a couple things. We're gonna delve into the dark side for a moment before we bring this around full circle and come back into the
Yeah.
light. So,
Given that it was May the 4th, just a couple of
yeah,
days
May the
ago,
fourth.
that's
Yeah.
very appropriate. You're going to put your Darth Vader suit
I,
on
yeah,
and
I was
May
trying.
the
I was
4th
trying to
be
figure out how
with
to get it
you.
into Cinco de Mayo, but I couldn't figure out how to work tequila into this conversation. So anyway, but
We'll get there later.
we'll
Start with
get there
Darth
later.
Vader.
Yeah, it's not noon yet anywhere. So anyway, no, but so it gets a little weird like this. So number one is if you're a Remax broker, and this is a legitimate concern that I think that they've got to be looking at, which is so what's happening now is you're a Remax agent can get essentially everything that the Real platform has, but now without having to pay the franchise fees. Presumably that's true,
Well,
right?
well, yeah, that is, you've just nailed the issue
Right.
underlying this whole thing is that you've got the Real regime and
Hmm.
the Remax regime, and they couldn't be more different, Mark.
Yeah,
Like they're
exactly.
totally different models.
Right.
And to your point, that's what my Remax brokers are looking at is they're saying, okay, well, wait a minute. I get all this technology, which is great,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think,
Okay.
but the model that Real offers its agents is way better for the agents than it is than the one Remax offers.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what how do I compete with that? Like if I'm Real Remax
Right.
and the real agents who are Real Remax are being treated a lot differently than my
Yeah.
Remax Real agents,
Right.
I don't know how
It.
you bridge that gap.
No, I don't know either. Well,
You
well,
spoke to the core issue.
right. And here I'll do a single thing. And the one that is everybody should be drinking tequila on is this. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who's a corporate attorney.
You realize that everything you do revolves around drinks.
Hey, I live in Florida. What do you want, man? It's a way of life down here. Or maybe
I
it's
was
me. I
gonna
don't know
say,
which. I don't know
we've
if I
got
embraced
wine, we got
Florida or
tequila, we
Florida
got
just
beer.
yeah, yeah. Florida just naturally, did it for me. But no, the other thing is I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a corporate attorney and very well positioned in the real estate industry, blah blah. And he said, look, he goes, he goes, this is my presumption. I have not read the contracts. I hesitate to say this, but he said it is completely plausible by the way they've structured this, what we've learned so far, that every single franchise contract that exists for Remax is null and void.
That would scuttle the deal because you think
Right.
about it, there's what 33,000
Something like that. Yeah.
agents for Real and 145,000 for
Yeah.
Remax. Like together they're 180,000, I think, but 100,000 in North America. Like you look at the financials, Mark, Real, before stock adjustments is losing
Mhm.
money every year.
Yeah.
Remax is making money every
Right.
year.
But losing agents.
100% losing
Yeah.
agents, but still
Still
showing a
making money.
positive EBITDA before all of our
Right.
adjustments. And
Right.
and it's dramatically different. Like Real's losing 8 million a year, and Remax, once you add in your amortization and depreciation, is making like 40 million. So how if that were even possible, they couldn't proceed with the deal because
No.
Real to me is buying Remax because it gives them a steady source of cash
Right.
that they don't have right now.
Right.
And Remax
Exactly.
is agreeing to the deal because, to your point, they've been declining in the US. Canada's doing really well. Internationally, they
Yeah.
seem okay, but the US is definitely declining year over year over year. And they don't have any technology stack that helps their agents deal with the AI-based world that you and I are currently in. So that's a scary thing to hear from that corporate lawyer of yours.
Yeah.
Like that would be, to me, that would scuttle the deal.
Oh, well, it's even worse than that because, in some sense, because not only would it scuttle the deal, it would also show the entire industry that both platforms almost can't survive without each other in some sense.
Well, it's
Looking
certainly,
looking down
what's
the road.
interesting? You and I always look for the win-win,
Of
right? Like
course.
without exception, we always say, what is the mutually beneficial piece in any merger? Because
Right.
or any purchase, any
Right.
sale, any merger, because it's a long-term relationship. We've talked about this before. It's not a used car sale. It's like
Right.
an alignment for years.
Right.
And you can see the reasons that the two brands, are merging or
I can.
being purchased. You can see it. But to your point, there's a whole bunch of potential minefields
Hmm.
that they've got to navigate as
Yeah.
they implement this thing. And
Exactly.
there's that whole short term, medium term, long term that you and I deal with every time we do a
Right.
transaction,
Right.
and there's minefields in all three places.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's
All right. So now let's do this. I'm gonna have fun with this. I'm gonna show you something. This is something that we do internally to just sort of keep track of some things. So I don't know. Hopefully you can only see this picture, not my whole screen. But anyway,
I
so
can only see this picture. I
oh good,
cannot see anything
oh good, yeah.
inappropriate on your screen.
Yeah, there you go. So now obviously we say if this was just based on agent count, nothing else. So obviously the
Yeah.
Compass Anywhere merger, by far is still the biggest. Then we go to the next tier down. Now, what's interesting about this, okay, fine, Real and Remax are now together. That leaves KW out kind of on its own,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what it's doing. But
Yeah,
where
which
where
which
this
is
be,
which is a really good point,
yeah.
because when we last had our quarterly chat,
Hmm.
you and I both were comfortable with saying that Remax was an acquisition target.
Yep.
But I remember you said to me it'd be a good pickup for KW,
Yep.
and I agreed with you.
Hmm.
And now they're kind of out in the cold, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's start to follow the train of logic here. So if you look at what Real and Remax did, you could make the argument that EXP KW could be an interesting merger. But the problem
Assuming
is,
that you're comfortable with the totally different business models merging
agreed.
together.
I'm always saying this in terms of technology versus scale. And that's gonna
Yeah,
what I'm gonna
I
stick.
love that, because
Yeah,
that is Real and
that's
Remax.
what the
It's
real exactly.
technology meets scale and
Right.
profitability.
Right.
Technology with no
Right.
profits meets scale and profits.
Correct. So you could make the argument that an EXP KW merger would be good, but to be fair, I don't know that Leo and Glenn would probably give up EXP to be acquired. And oh, why am I drawing a blank on the PE group that owns KW? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, I don't think they'll let KW go. So if we assume those two things, then that's not going to happen. The next most interesting one, in my opinion, would be a Berkshire Hannah merger because Hobie has been sort of, I wouldn't say stuck, but deliberately just working with, let's call it the Eastern Seaboard. Not That's not
Yeah.
exactly accurate, but the
Yeah, no,
East.
but it's true. He's been focused on increasing his scale in his sweet spots.
Correct. And it's certainly no trade secret that Warren, before he stepped down, did not really have any interest left in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
So those two things. And if Hobie picked up Berkshire, then he would get the scale nationally. That would be interesting. I mean, Redfin sort of, I leave them there just because they exist, not because of anything other than that. United, I have no idea what they're up to. I mean, they just, I suspect well, I shouldn't say that. I suspect I know what they're up to, but they're in an unenviable position of kind of being out in the wind as well a little bit. And then that takes us to tier 4, and you could mix and match any one of these 5 or 6 or 7 companies to create a bigger company. Now, there are a couple things in this tier that I know for sure are happening because we're partly part of it.
I
But
knew that you're
yeah.
you're the Machiavellian puppet master behind some of these things, Mark.
I'm not sure if I like the Machiavellian part, but all right, I'll take the rest
No,
of it.
I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that all the machinations that are
Yeah,
required to put deals like
yeah,
this together. Because you think about it again, like Douglas Elliman sitting on $135 million worth of cash. They're
yeah,
public. They're
yeah,
on a global expansion, move. They're full luxury. They've got the
yeah.
highest purchase price, per house in the market.
Right.
And you think about them, where do they want to go? Who do they want to merge with? What's their play? I don't know, but I agree with you. They're definitely in the mix there.
Absolutely.
Fathom, as you and I know, they're definitely in the mix because there's no profits there. So
Right.
it's like you look at Real, no profits, Remax profits, old school, new school merging
Yeah,
together. I agree with you. It's a fascinating board you got up there.
yeah,
We
yeah.
should uh, we should put five nickel bets on who's next.
According to you, I still owe you a steak, but
You,
okay,
you
that's
owe
fine.
me. I think you owe me two right about
Well,
now.
two already?
Medium rare with a nice big baked potato beside would make me very happy.
You're gonna get a fillet. I can see this coming with the bacon wrap and the whole thing, Or for you,
It'll
Canadian
be
bacon.
it'll be like a vichyssoise or something. You'll have to do something really, really elaborate.
Yeah,
But
there
no,
you go.
you raise an excellent point. It's that whole thing that we see on a microcosm level and a macro level,
Right.
where with all the consolidation happening, it's obvious that the really well-paid people in the industry are saying, I need scale, I
Yeah.
need technology, I need to do something different.
Right.
And you and I see it on a micro level with my more modest clients. You run more of the spectrum, but
Yeah.
but everybody's saying to me, okay, I've got 50 agents, I've got 100 agents, I've got 200 agents, I've got 500 agents. Like, what do I do, Norma?
Yeah.
And I always say, if you can find a cultural fit with someone who is smaller than you and you want to buy them,
Mm.
it's a great move
Yeah.
because it just strengthens that ability to amortize those costs, Mark, which are inevitable across more agents. The challenge is more of the existential one that you raised in your white paper. It's that whole, as consolidation continues and the larger companies start to control a private listing portal and customer data and all the leads that are coming in, what happens to that traditional model of agent owning customer?
Right. Well, I mean, look, and this precisely right. Everything I agree with everything you just said. I'll just extrapolate on a couple things. One is, look, based on that chart, we know that the big companies are going to continue to compress. That's a given. The small companies are going to be forced to compress
Yeah.
because, to your point, they just have no ability to keep up the scale. So we'll call it 100 or less agents. They've been in trouble for a while, but I think it's going to get worse in some sense. So then you're left with that middle ground of, we'll call it 250 up to maybe 1,000 agents, something like that.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that they've got to make some real choices here. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is, because of all this compression, everybody from, say, 1,000 agents up to, say, 3,000 or 4,000 agents, they've gone into full acquisition mode again. I mean, strangely, I don't know if you're seeing it. I mean, we're seeing all the multiples start to come up a little bit. Now, we'll see what happens, at least with the Remax side of it, how that's going to play out. It might drive everything down just a dribble, but I suspect not a lot. But the multiples are coming back up now. And it's
And what are you seeing, Mark? Because I have buyers who want to pay 2.5. I have sellers who want 3.5. That's kind of the
yeah.
range I'm at. Is that sort of still where
Yeah,
you're sitting?
what I'm telling everybody right now is 2.5 to 3. I
Okay.
maybe could push that to 3.1 if I really wanted to. And again, we do it state by state, area by area. So,
Yes. Yeah, it's
in
very it's
California
very
is going to,
geographic, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it is absolutely. So, but I had a CEO call me from one of the bigger groups. Oh, I don't know. This would have been a month or so. And he was asking me, he goes, where are you guys seeing it? And I said, 2.5 to 3, I think is going to be where we're going to sit. I could make the argument over the next couple months. I could even shift that, maybe go to a 2.7 to a 3.2 or something like that. But I think you're going to
Yeah.
be in that general range.
Yeah, I agree because
If you're profitable.
we're clearly in the 2.5 to 3.5. What's interesting is the real Remax is
Mhm.
at 9.7, I think,
Yeah.
pre or 9.3 pre synergies.
Yeah.
That's a big number, Mark.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and I honestly haven't quite figured out how they manage that one. But okay, but
It, I
that's all
mean,
more market cap stuff, and when you've got that
and
many
yeah, and the
investors.
public listing piece, but
Yeah,
still, it's even though it's public and you get that magnitude when you're public, it's still tough. Like you
yeah,
think about a 10 times EBITDA,
yeah,
we haven't seen that. That hasn't been the case in this industry since what 2016 when they were approaching like
yeah.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I
I
remember. Yeah,
It's
I
a
remember a
lot.
few. It was rare. I remember. We all heard about the one in that Refkin went after in, I think it was Houston or Texas somewhere. I don't remember where it was. And he wrote a check for 10x, and everybody was
which is
like,
which is crazy because they're not doing that anymore.
"No,
They have battened down the
no,
hatches,
yep,
and the mandate that we're seeing at all levels is you are spending no money.
yeah,
And even the brands that they control now through
yeah,
Anywhere Mark, where they used to pay to convert,
hmm
there's
yeah,
no money. Like the
yeah,
the max deals I'm seeing right now are 11 months of money
yeah,
up front for a 10-year deal. Like think
yeah,
about that. That's
yeah."
nothing
No,
in stuff. How do you possibly convince an independent to switch to a brand if
mhm.
you're going to give them basically 300 grand on a $3 million contract?
Right, right. I know
That's a
it.
hard sell
Yeah,
unless you see the benefit of that brand for your business and being able to
right,
grow it.
right.
That's a hard sell,
Yeah.
man. I
How are you seeing and I'm going to convert the conversation slightly because I'm curious as to if you're seeing it, but I'm going to go back to that graph that everybody saw that, the tier 4 and tier 5 range. I'm actually seeing a lot of expansion. I'm going to say universally, in that niche. And they still are paying a little bit. I mean, to your point, it's
sorry,
maybe not
in which niche?
the tier 4 and tier 5. So I mean, I'll just pick a few names out. It doesn't matter. United, I know, again, we work with them, so they've now started to try and pick up some groups. The agency, Mauricio is opened up the checkbook. Um,
Yeah.
Donnie Sampson hasn't, he's willing to talk, but they're little thing. Engel and Volkers USA. I mean, Stewart's opened up theirs.
It
So, there are some
so
opportunities
it's interesting because my intel on Angle and Volkers is they are not spending anything
on a
to
corp.
convert.
Well, corporate level, yes, that's true. In fact, again, we
Yeah.
work with them, but what I can tell you is that they're being much more. What would we say? They're being much more open to the discussions within, say, their master franchises or some of their bigger groups. So we're working with a couple of now. The corporate is stepping in and maybe trying to help a little bit, trying to
Interesting.
make those deals. But we're seeing a lot of, maybe it's more in the luxury space because as I think about it, some of those names I mentioned are more in the luxury space, and maybe that has something to do with it. But we are still seeing a lot of robust conversation going on with those groups in that middle tier section, what we call tier 4 and 5. Something like
Interesting. Because
yeah.
so I'm seeing Element wanting to expand.
Element's another one,
So
yeah,
so I'm
and
seeing
rabies,
them
yeah,
wanting to expand, although I'm seeing them preserving cash while wanting to expand, which
true,
is a difficult mandate, which is
yeah,
basically Compass right now, right?
yeah,
Compass is saying, I don't want to spend any money because we've
mm,
got $3 billion worth of debt, but I want to expand.
yeah,
It's just a tough
yeah,
balancing act. And
yeah,
it's not compelling when they're trying to buy people and not providing cash down, right?
yeah,
Especially profitable brokerages.
right, right,
So I'm seeing a lot of constriction in cash available. You're probably seeing the same, like
yeah,
just people
absolutely,
not willing to write a check.
right, and
Even
again,
even Aperture and
yeah,
LPT, like every one of their conversions for LPT is a stock deal or a proposed stock deal.
yeah. Wow.
Aperture, I don't think they've done much of anything because they don't want to write that check.
Right. Well, I mean,
And remember Compass when they used to write huge checks to agents? They're
yeah,
not doing that anymore.
no,
The
absolutely.
the the Christie's did two huge transactions before the merger. Were very generous to the real estate brokerages themselves. They're not doing
Yeah.
that.
And
I,
Sotheby's is the same way on them.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody's just like preserving cash, and even though they say they want to expand, there isn't that money behind it.
And
So
look, in fairness to Compass, and I'm going to probably throw them just a small bone. They got a lot of shit to work out. I mean, it's not, yeah, the 4 billion in debt is a separate issue, and certainly it needs to be
is it
recognized.
four? Was I saying three and it's actually
I think
four?
isn't it closer to four? I think is last time I heard
Wow.
something. But the point is, I mean, they're just trying to figure out what the next steps are as far as how to incorporate again two, I wouldn't say two entirely different models, but they're not completely simpatico either. Um,
Well,
and
and you and I've talked about this before. They have nine different brands.
yeah,
And that's hard in and of itself. I heard some intelligence that um, Homes and Gardens is probably a difficult brand to keep going. I've heard some
I
comments about Corcoran being tough because they never really expanded in the way that they, maybe thought they could. And they've got some fiefdoms that are incredibly strong across the
yeah,
country, but they don't have that
yeah,
nationwide strength. Like it'll be a fascinating conversation when they try to integrate and run it as a collective as opposed to as nine separate
right.
fiefdoms.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've heard the same thing. I mean, that the BHG name is pretty much, as far as we can tell, gonna take some serious hits. Corcoran, ERA are the other two that they're
And
trying to
does
figure out.
someone buy those, Mark? Does someone in that cool visual that you showed a few minutes ago
Well,
buy that
well,
from
well,
Compass?
where's the advantage? I mean, just think about it from a pure business point of view. Where, look, let's just say, just for fun, and Lord knows I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but let's just say for 5 seconds that the higher ups at Compass say BHG, ERA, and Corcoran are not brands that we can seriously maintain in the
Right.
aggregate in the long term. Okay, but we still need the agents. We didn't buy these so that all the agents could go away and the brokerages could go away. So the next step only is one of two things. You keep the profitable ones and you roll them into, let's say, Compass itself, maybe as a corporate shop or something. You figure out a
Yeah.
way to generate dollars that way for Compass corporate, right? Or Compass Holdings, whatever they're calling their main entity. And then I presumably then if it's a non-profitable franchise, you just let it go and you're not really out anything. You're really just looking at it almost as a loss leader in some sense. Just if those agents aren't productive, you let them go to the wayside, and you save yourself the cash that it takes for E&O and all the rest of the stuff that to run the company. I mean that seems plausible.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I guess the other option, but you're right, they bought agents and scale. Like when you think about them trying to convert a Better Homes and Gardens agent to a Compass agent, does that transition work? I guess it depends city by city and
Yeah,
location by location whether it would resonate with the agent. Corcoran, same thing. Like a lot of those Corcoran, the really strong operators, do they want to become Compass? I don't
well,
know.
that's the question of the hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
And
part that
ERA has their own little brand that
yeah,
apparently does well internationally. I don't know. It's you have focused in on I think a major source of discussion for Compass is
yeah.
what do they do
Well,
with
look,
those brands?
if they're not talking about it, God knows they should be. I mean, I can't imagine that I can't imagine that I've come up with something that remarkable that they haven't been talking about this crap already, But still, nonetheless, it's like,
I know,
there's,
Mark, that brain of yours, it spurns a lot of very interesting conversations.
yeah,
So
well, so yeah,
I,
look,
I I'm finding that the brands we deal with on a regular basis are not prepared to pay the cash in this market. And just a tough market right now. I agree wholeheartedly with you that it is a consolidation market. It's a
Absolutely.
market where scale is desired and is being sought. And the so we tend to deal below your tier. So we tend to deal from, like, 0 to 600 agents, 0 to 700 agents, I would say. And in that tier, there's lots of operators
Mhm.
of that scale looking to add, and they will cut a check, which is impressive, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so we have buyers that will cut a check, and it used to be, as you and I both know, 25 to 50% down, and now we're seeing 10 to 33 sort of at most. And the favorite number right now for me for buyers is they want to put 20% down, and they want to take 80% over 4 years. And remember, you and I talked about that
Oh yeah.
before, about the 2 year time frame that
Yep.
that a seller wants. I'm finding that tougher and tougher to get right now in this market.
Well, and you and I work in slightly different sides of the market, obviously, and we've never, we're collaborators, and we're sort of, sometimes we're at odds with each other, but whatever, whatever. But we just come back to the buyers network that we've established and just go, guys, no, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And
Yeah.
we're fortunate in that we do enough deals that we can put pressure. We know where the pressure points are. So I don't say that as a way to sound grandiose. It's more just, I have one right now where the buyer's like, well, can we stretch it out to 5? And we went, no, you can't stretch it
Yeah.
to 5. It's not going to
Well,
happen.
because to your my point earlier, it has to be mutually beneficial.
Right.
So for some of our sellers, if they trust the buyer, which is a
True.
big if,
Right.
then they're happy to divide the tax hit over four
Sure.
years, right? That's fine.
Right.
And they're happy to get a certain amount down and then divide it over the 4 years. But it's just a much different deal than it was 3 years ago
Oh, I know.
or four
It's
years ago.
well,
It's much different.
it's even changed in the last, I don't know, I'd say 5 months or 6 months, where
Yeah.
you're seeing different resistance points where people are,
Yes.
we just released a paper. I don't know if you've read it yet, but I think it went out yesterday and blah, 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 day before, whatever it was. And
I
we're
did
talking about,
not spend last night reading it, but I
should
will.
have, you should have. But it talks about the guardrails, right? And what we're seeing is the guardrails are having to be adjusted a little bit. You and I have had this conversation, ad nauseum, so we won't go through it again. For those listening, read the white paper. But you know, just those guardrails, from our point of view, the guardrails are having to be adjusted to protect the right people at the right time during the right timeline as it goes all the way through its life cycle, as the merger goes all the way through its life cycle. And we're just having to make some small adjustments. To your point, less money down. Well, technically that is a guardrail, right? Longer
Yeah.
payout. That's a guardrail as well, right? And so
Yeah.
you and I are always trying to figure out where are the right guardrails at the right time so that everybody feels like they're going to win on this. Okay, fine. And that's just, we're
And
at a weird stage.
and do you think it's because people were hopeful the spring market would see an increase in volume,
Yeah.
because 23, 24, 25 have been 4 million units across the US pretty consistently. And
Of
they were
course.
like, we need an uptick. We need to see
Because
4.5 or 4.4, or
no,
who knows if you'll get back to 5 anytime soon. But my sense is that it's that fourth year of rolling into that low transaction market where people are adjusting, as you call them, the guardrails. How much
yep,
will I put down? How long
yep,
will I take to pay? And the sellers, I have some sellers who are like, heck no, I'm not doing that,
right,
Norma. You have the same.
yep,
I have other sellers who are saying, get me the best deal you can,
of
right? And
course.
so to your point, you
Yeah,
push back as best you can until you have a balancing act, where I always tease that if both parties are somewhat unhappy, we're
yeah,
probably in the right space.
right,
So,
exactly. If they're
right?
either both happy or both pissed off, you've done it right.
That's
It's
right. It's so true. If
yeah,
one's celebrating, the other's really pissed
yeah.
off at you, that's bad.
You
But
missed,
if
yeah,
they're
you
both
missed up on
equally
that one.
pissed off, it
No,
probably means you've done a fair deal.
it's interesting because I remember having this discussion. It was probably with you, even though we maybe not have recorded it or something back then. But this would have been, I don't know, early last year or 25. Um, and everyone was saying, okay, 25 is going to be the big turnaround. And I went, no, it's not. I mean, I don't care what the NAR says. I mean, their job is to try and promote real estate.
They market. They're a
That's
marketing
what they
arm in
do.
many
They
ways.
want everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, talk about it. Sorry, I'm going to say something mean. Talk about a bunch of bullshit artists. I mean, they'll tell
Uh,
you every positive thing under the sun, and never. It's like a dog and pony show. You
well,
know.
and the problem is that people believe them
Yes.
and make decisions
Yep.
based on this rosy forecast
Yeah.
that you and I just aren't feeling.
Well, okay. So
And and then like the difficulty that I see, which is sort of tragic, is people get locked into these long-term franchise agreements, they get
yeah.
locked into these long-term leases, they've got too much staff for the
Yeah.
current transaction count,
Yeah.
and it's painful
I
to take
genuinely
that
believe.
and reduce it.
Yeah, I genuinely believe that the higher ups that exist in the real estate space, whether those are CEOs, the NAR seniors, whatever, the individual, even the MLSs that are scattered around the country, who, the CEOs of the MLSs and all that. I swear to you, there's days I go, do you guys even walk out of your office and really see what's happening to the rank and file agent and broker? Because it just seems to me sometimes they have no clue. I listened to something yesterday. I will not name names because it was, I thought what they were talking about was relevant, et cetera, et cetera. But as I was watching the people, I just kept thinking to myself, they haven't left their offices in 15 years. They
Yeah,
don't
whereas
have,
whereas you and I are in the trenches
yeah,
every
we're
day.
down, we're working with the customer, working with the
A
brokers and the agents and the whatever.
100%.
And it's like, I was screaming at my computer, listening to this damn thing, going, you're all effing idiots. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, luckily I was on permamute, so it didn't matter. But, it was
I
like,
was just gonna say, Julia's like, calm down, Mark, just
yeah.
calm down, you'll be fine.
But I was just like, this is insane. They're giving us the same rosy picture they did in 2025, and they're trying to make it sound like 2026 is going to be this, that, and something else. And I was just like, holy crap on a cracker. They,
Well, and
so anyway,
I don't see it. And I keep
no,
hoping I'm wrong. And I don't think you see it.
no,
Like I don't see the fall saving a brokerage that is currently unprofitable right
right,
now. And I don't even, you hope that the spring of 27 things
yeah,
start to improve, but there's so much global uncertainty right
yeah.
now
I
and
just,
so many headwinds. Like there's
right,
headwinds out there,
right,
and you and I both know buyers don't take risks when they don't feel comfortable about their job and the
yeah,
price of gas and how
yeah,
much they're paying for their expenses. It's
absolutely.
just it everything just
Well,
slows
look,
right down.
if you can make the if someone can and legitimately make the argument to me that on the one hand, the cold winter slowed down those early months of 2026, and somehow we're going to overcome that to have the summer months when we're in, globally we're just going through an absolute crap show, across the board, and
Yeah.
then somehow the back half of 2026 is going to save this. Sorry, nobody can make that argument to me, and I'm not trying to
It,
be a doomsayer. I'm really not. I
no,
really
because you and
want
I
this
want
industry to
we
start.
want the market to improve.
It helps.
We want
Yeah,
the market to improve because it's good for us, it's good
right.
for society in
It,
general, it's good for all of our business owner clients, all our
right.
entrepreneurs that are putting themselves out there every day.
Exactly right.
But
If I was
I agree with you.
no,
It's a very it's an incredible thing to say
yeah.
because you just can't back it up right now.
Right. And that's the problem. And to be fair, I get frustrated because I have people who talk to me and go, "Oh no, it's all going to be cherry tomorrow." What? Do you guys just not read the numbers? Do you not see what's happening? And these are people who I think should be well steeped in the industry. And I just listen to them and go, "All right, I believe what you got to believe, man." But I think you're going, these aren't just rose-colored glasses. I mean, these are full-on burgundy, with sparkles coming out the top. And I'm with you. I think look, if I had to say this out loud and the whole thing, I would say the back half of 26 will hopefully be an inflection point, and we'll start to correct some of these things. 27, certainly leading into 28, I think will be a much better year. But how many of the brokerages that we deal with can hang on that long? And and there's an advantage to maybe not, And I'm not. This isn't supposed to be this isn't about our companies. I mean, we're fine, but at the same time, I worry sometimes that these brokers get led down the primrose path, and who knows? It just
Yeah.
There are
And the other
advantages to recognizing timing.
and and going back full circle, I think Real
Mhm.
realized
Yeah.
that they had a limited runway,
Yep.
losing $8 million a year,
Yeah.
and all of their EBITDA is stock related.
Hmm.
And I think their move to buy Remax was as a result of that pressure
Right.
to create profitability and scale. And so at a much smaller level, you and I are seeing that with our clients, where the ones who want scale are buying the smaller guys and rolling them in. And
Right.
some deals, as we talked about, are money down. Some deals are just walk over. I'll
Right.
take over your expenses and we'll keep going and we'll pay you
Yeah.
out over time.
Right.
The issue for you and I is you care about your clients. I care about my clients.
Of
Well, you
course.
don't want entrepreneurs who have such great um, optimism about life to be
Mhm.
beaten down
Yeah.
with the belief that things are going to get better imminently when they're not. And
Right.
so those margin adjusted expense discussions that
Yeah.
you and I have on a daily basis or weekly basis with clients to say, look, you can't be spending
Right.
300,000 in payroll if your company dollar is 600 grand. Like you just
Yeah.
can't do it.
Right.
You're going to go broke.
Yeah.
You can't. We had a broker in Minnesota. His premises, Mark, was 50% of his company dollar. I said, like, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
This under any scenario,
Right.
you are not going to make it unless
Yeah.
you adjust that real estate cost.
Yeah. Well, it's you almost want to say you're not going to go broke. You're broke already. You just haven't figured that out yet.
It
You know.
it's that whole monthly, every month if you're writing a
Yeah.
check, how long does that happen? You can't survive. And you don't want to survive. You don't want to have your personal funding your business. You want it the other way around.
And look, we've had this discussion so many times. Let's try and make this a little more chipper. But it's if you can't get up in the morning and just love what you do,
Yeah.
if that pressure is on you 24/7, that's no way to live. I mean,
No,
that's
you know what? You're so right. I had this great I didn't have a great I really like one of my colleagues, and he and I chatted last week, and he said, Norma, I am hating what I'm doing.
yeah,
And I said, but you're so good at what you do. And he said, but the environment right now and where the company I'm working for, I dread
yeah,
my weekly meetings.
yeah,
And to your point, I said to him, life is too short. Like you've
right,
got to figure that out. And
right,
whether you're an executive or whether you're an entrepreneur running your own business, if you, as you said, if you don't actually obtain fulfillment from what you're doing and
yeah,
look forward to it, because think
yes,
about the joy that a lot of our
right,
clients take in what they do. You
yeah,
got to make some changes
right,
because
absolutely,
you got to fix it.
yeah. No,
And
I met,
and
I
if
met
that's
with,
if that's selling,
yeah,
if that's reducing your expenses, if that's going to a virtual model, I mean, whatever you need to do, you need to do it
yeah.
because you need cash to come in every month, not
Right.
go out.
Right. Well, one of our first questions, when every time somebody calls us, and I typically, as we're getting to know them a little bit, the first question I'll inevitably get to is, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you even want to talk to us? What's the
Yeah.
motivation behind this?
Yeah.
And
What's the
and I
trigger?
force them to sort of face whatever it is that or maybe a better way to say it is, I force them to tell me out loud what they haven't told their wives or their husbands or
You're
whatever.
you're the therapist, Mark.
Yeah, that's
You're
the
the
therapy part
full-on
of it.
blunt
Because
therapist.
if I can get them to say out loud what's really driving this, then a lot of times we can give them different solutions other than just M&A. And maybe it is going and talking to somebody and saying, how do I clean up my books? How do I, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, fine. But
Yeah.
I was talking to some new clients. I will say that now, some new clients, and I said, okay, so come on, what's the motivation? Talk to me. And it was a husband wife ownership, and she goes, I hate doing this. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to go plant. I want to play in my little garden. I want to have my little dog. I can't
Yeah.
stand this. And I went, oh, okay. So M&A is the only choice for you. And the
I
husband was more
yeah.
subdued about it, but you could tell he was burned out. He just didn't want to do it. And it's like, yeah, that's
And what's great about that is you have a solution for it.
yes.
Right? That's what's great is
Yeah.
if they've got agents and they've got some, company dollar coming in,
Hmm.
you or I have a solution for that. We can
Right.
figure out how to
Yeah.
transition them to somebody who's excited about the business, who wants to grow the business,
Yes.
and they can say, "Thank gosh, I'm no longer in the business."
Yep.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's the whole thing about the mutually beneficial piece.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want to be in the business, get them out of it.
Yeah. And if they want to stay in, if they can wake up in the morning with a smile on their face and go, I still want to do what I do, then you offer them a different solution. And that's okay.
Yes.
That's why we're all doing what we're doing here. Again,
Yeah.
there's only a
And
handful of us that do this. So it's, makes life easier.
and what's interesting, Mark, is if you were a betting person, would you be on the buying side or the selling side right now?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. If I was a betting man, I probably would be on the selling side if I'm being honest. I maybe the problem is you got to caveat that down a little bit. It depends on your own brokerage and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I think that if you have the finances to be able to go forward, let's call it, and you've sold your business and you're profitable and you can get some money, I would actually sell right now. And that I understand that probably sounds a bit self-serving, but it's really not.
No, I know it. I
Yeah,
don't take it that way.
yeah,
I think being in the industry that you and I are in and seeing every day business owners struggling
yeah,
in the real estate brokerage
yeah,
industry, I think that's what drives that answer, right?
yeah.
Because it's not a buoyant time right now. It
No,
is
it's
a
not.
difficult
Well,
time.
it is
And
difficult, and I'm gonna even stretch that out a bit further. Even if the housing market itself were to change tomorrow, it's not going to, but if it were, it's still going to be very chaotic in this industry for a while. I mean, that's just the honest truth. I mean,
yeah,
you might be selling more homes next year at this time or something like that, but that does not mean that there is not a lot of weird crap that's going on right now, and we're all having to kind of struggle to keep up with the change. And the industry needed it. I'm not denying that part of it. But the honest truth is that does make for difficult working environments if you're just a rank and file broker in Omaha,
yeah,
just trying to make a living, type of
yeah.
thing.
And we've talked about this before, AI.
Oh,
So
yeah,
with my staff now, every week at our strategy meeting, we are discussing what did you try with AI this
yeah,
week that you didn't try the week before that made you uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, Mark, but it's uncomfortable to try to learn this stuff.
it is.
It is like you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone with the view that that's the way you learn, that's the way you grow, that's the way you stay sort of on top of things. And I'm finding that people are dabbling in AI, which is great.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fear out there, which is understandable.
yeah,
And there's a lot of realization, I think, that people who are adept at using AI are more effective,
mhm,
more time, time effective than those who don't. But I'm still seeing a lot of people who have no interest in even learning it.
oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I've been forced to kicking and screaming, but here I am.
Yeah,
Well, let me
yeah,
give you this one. I'll give you this little tidbit. This happened, call it 2 weeks ago, something like that. This is the very first time this has happened to me. A broker called me, very smart operator. He said, I am convinced that in the next 3 years, AI will take over this industry. And I'm going to sell my company now. Period. End of discussion. I just need you to do a valuation and get it sold for me. But that was his one sole
yeah,
reason.
yeah.
And I went,
He's
okay.
he thinks it will disrupt the industry.
He thinks it's going to dismantle, was his exact words.
Wow.
And that's
And
and again, that I don't want Matt sound. I'm not relaying this story to be self-serving. This is what's starting to happen now. That concept is starting to trickle into the brains of the rank and file brokers out there. By the way, he's 400 agents. He's incredibly profitable. He's in a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
luxury market.
He's a
He's
savvy
a
operator.
great operator, and he just said point blank, nope, AI is going to take it all down, and I don't want to be here when it happens. And he, like literally the industry, not the whole world or whatever. Although Terminator always starts playing in my head every time we talk about AI. But um, you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, and that was the first time, and I'm thinking to myself, he's not going to be the last. That
And the core question is that deep relationship between customer and agent. that is so visceral and so emotional and so much based on trust,
Hmm.
can it be replaced?
Well, you've got a younger daughter. Does she buy anything that's relationship based anymore? Everything's online. I mean, you don't think, again, we had this argument last time. I would
Yeah.
maintain that a house is no different than buying a car, and people buy cars online all the time. I
I don't know.
I,
I don't
I
know. It's
understand you're going to fight me on this one, but I'm telling you,
I
the
I'm gonna
generation that
argue
is
the other
younger than
side of
us,
that.
I know the generation that is younger than us literally buys everything online. They barely know what a mall is other than just walking around for their Cinnabon or something. And the occasional, Lululemon or whatever the hell it is the kids are buying nowadays. But the point is, everything else is bought online.
Cinnabons with Lululemon. I love it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all you need in life.
That's all you
And
need in life.
as far as I can tell, Sephora.
Yeah,
It's the
there you go.
Sephora, the Lululemon, and the Cinnabon.
There you go. But the point is like, okay, if people can buy cars, which is their second largest purchase, and they can
Yeah.
spec it out and do whatever, there is no reason to believe that AI cannot disrupt the housing market or the URL combination of AI and URL can disrupt the housing market, which of course is what that white paper was all about. And I'm sorry, I don't think our kids are going to know any different. Certainly mine doesn't. I mean, my youngest boy, I mean, he's 28. And I can't, he's probably never, Shelly probably hasn't been to a mall in years. He doesn't even, he just waits for his Amazon packages to show up or whatever. That's all he knows. A house will be
And do
no
you
different for
think,
him.
and you don't see any issues with that transferring to a home purchase for three, four, five, 600,000?
Legally, there's a lot of issues, but
No,
from a,
I mean,
no, no,
I'm talking about the emotional, the
from a
visceral,
purchaser point of view, no, no,
yeah, that's what I'm
I get
talking
what you're
about.
saying. From a purchaser point of view, if you have been raised in an environment where buying everything you need online and is in, 5 days or less shipping or whatever, a house isn't a big stretch. I know that sounds counterintuitive. And trust me, you and I are kind of the same age. I couldn't do it. I I need to go walk through and touch
Am
the
I
walls.
really as old as you? God
Oh,
help us all. You know what? I still think that agent customer trust relationship carries weight. And I agree with you that AI is going to change it. And I don't know how, but I don't know. It's you go through that process, and you and I, we read all the time that it's the biggest investment anyone ever makes, and it's very visceral and emotional, and how a house makes you feel. Like I, when you think about someone buying a house without actually walking through it, Mark, I couldn't do that.
but by the way, I'm gonna back up my own argument. You do know that, like, what was it, a month ago or two, I don't whatever, how many, the very first house was sold on Chat GPT.
Which is quite bonkers. I
Yeah,
find that
the
it's
guy
bonkers.
listed his house. He had ChatGPT write everything, pictures, blah blah blah, and he put it on there. And where it goes to, I have no idea. I don't know the whole story behind it, but I remember reading about it just to glance. And he sold the damn thing on ChatGPT or whatever it was. It's like, yeah,
So is that the novelty play, or is that the model for future that has your 400 agent broker saying, "Get me out of this, Mark"?
well, yes, I think both. Yes, it
Yeah,
is
that's
novelty right now, but it's
yeah.
this is one of those moments of what is it? Transition is slow and then all at once, right? I mean
Yes, yeah, yeah. No, that's
that's
fair. Like it
yeah.
just it's and then it just
It's
spikes.
incremental and then it just skyrockets. And by the way, that would be business at large. I mean, you and I run small businesses. I mean, how often, those first couple of years we kind of trickled along and then all of a sudden something happened and it just took
Yeah.
off. So the basic premise is sound. The basic business premise is sound.
Yes, yes.
But I understand
Yeah.
my mentality of my age bracket says, no, that's the stupidest thing we've ever heard. And my kid who's in his 20s goes, it seems completely plausible to buy a house online.
Yeah.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
And this is the reason why it's so good to have all different ages that you're talking to, because I think especially entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
if they just do what they've always done in the same box that they've always done it in, the danger is that you wake up one day and you're a dinosaur and your
Right.
model doesn't function anymore.
Right. Well,
And that's sort of the Remax problem.
Now we're back to Remax and
Now
A.
we're back to real Remax. Like that's sort of, they are so old school in their technology and in their the way they run their business. And
Sure.
and customers trust the balloon. They absolutely do. There is a complete appreciation and sense of comfort
Yeah.
from the Remax balloon.
Right.
But the model for the broker
Is destroyed.
has been challenging for a while. And so you wonder if real,
Yeah.
they say nothing's going to change, but you have to imagine that something's going to change, Mark, because
Right.
they have to realize all sorts of synergies with the
Right.
purchase. They have to bring the EBITDA multiple down to 7 is the theory
Yeah.
from 9.3 or
Right.
9.8.
Right.
It
Well,
does that drag that Remax,
yeah.
brokerage owner into the technological next century?
Right. Well, and by the way, I always love it when CEOs of any industry say, "Oh yes, we just merged, $900 million, a billion, whatever the number is, but nothing's going to change." Well, if nothing's
Yeah,
going to change, why the hell did you merge to begin with? You could have kept
a
going just
hundred
the way you were
percent.
going. Like,
And that's what you and I were talking about earlier,
yeah,
which was the short term, the
yeah,
medium term, the long term. In the short term, they're probably right. Nothing's going to change for the first
sure,
3 to 6 months
right,
because they're trying to figure out what the heck they're
right,
supposed to do with it.
right,
But you and I both know in the medium term, there's going to be dramatic change. There has to be.
right. And then because
Yeah.
if not, there was no point in these two companies coming together at all. In which case, everybody just spent 800 and some odd $1 million for a press release.
Yeah, $880 million. And Reels technology. I don't know. You may know better than me. Is it as good as it's sort of, its press would say it is? They say there's like an
Yeah,
Ask
I mean,
Leo and another
yeah.
platform and
I mean, I think Real's tech stack is very robust. I've seen it. I've always found it to be very, user friendly and all that good stuff. I mean, I'm not an agent, so I don't use it on a day-to-day basis,
right.
those sort of things. And I've seen Compasses and I've seen Fathom's tech stack. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but inevitably they all suffer from one big problem. All the tech stacks is that the agent adoption is so minimal most of the time. So
Yeah.
you can go spend $1 billion on tech tac tomorrow, but if your customer base isn't using it, then what the hell was the point?
And
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 that's
that's a great point. Is Reels tech stack user friendly enough and beneficial enough
right,
that the agents will adopt it? And will the Remax agents who tend to be a little older, will they adopt it?
right. And those are the unanswered questions that will haunt this entire merger at least for the next 6 months. They again, I'm not part of their boardroom, but if they're not thinking about it, Jesus, they should be because that's a huge question they need to overcome. They have to have that answer.
So what you and I are basically saying is the Compass Anywhere merger and the real Remax merger are so complicated and the implementation is so difficult that we're going to be talking about this every quarter for the
Yeah.
next year.
When we do our next quarter's conversation, I guarantee. Well, here's what's going to get weird. Our next quarter's conversation, there'll be more mergers. I'm 100% certain of that. I'm not quite sure
I,
who, and I'm still wrapping my head around it. So we'll be talking about the Compass Anywhere, Real Remax. I'll make something
and the
up.
next and
Hobie
the next go
Berkshire.
round.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll just be, and then so we'll be talking about that compression at the top, and then the massive compression at the bottom, and what you're going to be left with is a very skinny little middle.